I mean, isn't Massachusetts about as blue states get?
But Scott Brown, you know, he won 2 years ago, and he won because the people, like, the citizens were very sophisticated and understood that his vote would make a difference, you know, in the Senate. It did with the 60 votes for Obamacare. And he really has, and he's really made a big difference. He's very moderate, obviously. You know, he's no good friend of the good conservatives, but he is Republican and usually votes with the party. So, you know, if you do have moderate, it's sort of an old school these days, but there have been moderate New Englanders, New Yorkers, Republicans, and he's sort of in that
Romney,
camp.
for example.
Well, exactly. Perfect example.
The prime
moderate
example
New Englanders, yeah.
He might be the bellwether of the kind of Tea Party wave, even though he's not by any way, shape, or form a Tea Partier himself, but he was sort of the precursor to the wave election of 2010 that indicated that there was this disaffection. There's a protest vote out there. I mean, he was nothing but a protest vote for a 2-to-1 Democratic state. And then 2010, we see this big wave. Now, the wave might have crested a little bit. I think what's interesting when you talk about whether, you know, is it a good thing to have not conservatives but Republicans have a majority of everything? I'm personally, as a libertarian with small L, I'm more interested in having good Republicans. People like Jeff Flake of Arizona, who's fighting against Richard Carmona and has a tough battle, but he's a very solid small government, limited government person. More people like Rand Paul and Mike Lee, less people like Mitch McConnell and the people who kind of ran the country badly between 2002 and 2007.
I'm genuinely a proponent for slow government. I think the whole thing was set up to achieve inaction. 3 branches of government, 2 houses of the legislature. The idea was to have 2 parties splitting this up to achieve as few laws as possible, to intrude upon liberty as few times as you can. That being said, there need to be some rollbacks now. When you need rollbacks, you need control.
Exactly. I mean, we've seen things rammed through the first 2 years of Obama's administration, you know, Obamacare. So maybe it's going to take equally as large a wave in the other direction to unravel those, and then we can balance it out and maybe have 2 parties in the House. But, you know, maybe it's called for. And then we have elections every 2 years, every 4 years, every 6 years in the Senate. And so the American people can take control and be in charge and make a decision if it's not going the right way.
Michelle, you brought up a race earlier. I think we're all shocked by this, but Todd Akin, famously, who I think, what did Todd Akin do? Redefined rape? Was that? Remind me.
Yeah, he said rape is not in all cases. Like, he made the insinuation that you know, it could be a date rape, and then he also said that women's bodies prevent. It's so ridiculous.
And he was
prevent pregnancy.
Everyone tried to push him out of the race.
Everybody.
The Republican.
But he stayed in. Republicans.
Republicans, yeah. That's
right.
About 2-3 weeks ago, Republicans started creeping back in because they said,
they did.
Okay, look, we need the Senate. He's still in it.
And he's
doing well. That's the kicker.
Behind Claire McCaskill.
I mean, if he did win that seat, it would definitely be under the category of a Pyrrhic victory. You get another in the Republican column, but you're going to be hearing about that incredibly dumb comment for a long time, and they'll make a lot of political hay of it.
And that's a problem too. Heading into this election, it seemed as if it would be easy for Republicans to take over the Senate. There were a lot of races in play, and then it got narrower and narrower with Akin, you know, becoming out of play. He's back in play now. But the problem is I think because they're shooting themselves in the foot, there hasn't been this large wave that we saw in 2010, the wave that took Scott Brown into office, and that's why it's going to be so hard for us.
It doesn't seem to be there, Michelle. The example, to illustrate your point, is Virginia, right? So Jim Webb is retiring, Democrat, and the races between Governor Tim Kaine, Democrat, and former Senator George Allen, Republican, and Tim Kaine has something like a 5-point lead on the Real Clear Politics average right now, which is a little surprising because Mitt Romney, that's one of the states where he's actually making up ground.
Yeah, and where's the Romney debate bump for the Senate? I think that's what surprised me.
I think that's coming. You know, and
you think that'll happen?
I think that's coming because it's such key states where Romney is moving up in Ohio and Florida, or way to the Senate, and Virginia especially. I mean, and Wisconsin. I think, you know, it's going to be a little bit slower. Plus, there aren't as many polls for the Senate as there are for the president. We don't get a dailies, and I think you're going to see momentum. I mean, there's nothing like momentum to turn things around.
What do you think's going on, Matt? You said the wave has crested, it's peaked. You said there's not the same wave as in 2010, Michelle. I think a good example of that is Florida. Connie Mack is running against incumbent Bill Nelson. And by all accounts, Connie Mack's having to move to the middle. He's having to moderate all his positions to become a viable candidate. And by the way, he's behind Nelson substantially. So whatever conservatism was driving in 2010 doesn't seem to be driving this year.
Well, let's look at the top of the ticket itself. I mean, Mitt Romney didn't win the nomination by being the most principled, limited government Tea Party fire breather. It was very much the opposite, as you guys have talked about a lot here. And that makes a difference. So that there's a prominent Washington columnist conservative whose name shall be kept secret here. But I had lunch with him, and this is before Romney had sealed the nomination. And he said, if Mitt Romney wins, not just the nomination, but the presidency, then conservatism will be dead.
Wow.
Which is a very
that is an overstatement.
It could be very well an overstatement, but it's interesting to think about. What happens if a guy runs on a platform that is not particularly conservative?
His platform is very conservative. I mean, there's not. I mean, he came out this week very clearly, especially he was talking about socially conservative. I am pro-life. I will eliminate funding for Plant. He evolved.
On the issue of entitlements, which you're talking about the wave in 2010, that had been the huge motivating thing. Everyone realized, look, we're running out of money. We can't keep doing this. And so people voted based upon that recognition. We have less money now. We are spending more money we do not have. We are borrowing more from foreign countries in order to spend that money.
And the problem is Obama for cutting Medicare.
Thank you, sir. That is exactly correct. No. That was a slow pitch down the middle. That is the reality here, is that the Republicans now, because they have a recognition that to win a national election, it's not about getting rid of entitlements. It's about reforming them in a way that we don't literally bankrupt ourselves in the next 15
and
or 20 years.
And that they'll be around. They're always selling it that they'll be around.
They are protecting entitlements. Entitlements have won.